What is up, everybody? This is Recap Rewind. I'm J-Lag.
And I'm NB.
And this episode is recapping and reviewing Riverdale Season 6, Episode 13, and it's called Chapter 108, Ex-Libris.
Ooh, stick around for the ending of the podcast, guys, because we're going to go through your recap roundups, our recap roundups, our best moments, our WTF moments, our best lines of the episode. There was so much happening this episode.
Oh, yeah.
So we do have a lot to talk about and dissect. So no pun intended. So
Stick around.
stick around.
As always, to our continued listeners and our brand new ones, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Let's get into this episode.
Let's get right into it. I think it was a great episode. Like, it was so good. And I just have to say, you know, whatever they're doing with this villain this season, he annoys the F out of me, but he is so good. Like,
that's exactly
the
what a villain should do.
Yeah, is so good. And, you know, coming off of some weird seasons where we were dealing with like gargoyle queens and all these things, these tree things. It's so funny because I follow this one girl. She's a podcaster. She's like, I used to love Riverdale until the tree monsters came. I was like, yeah, that's pretty much when everyone fell off the show.
Everyone's like, can't do it. Yeah.
But honestly, like this guy, like Percival, this whole storyline, like even this episode where they tackle like the library and like the books, it was just so good.
Yeah.
It made sense.
I think considering what it was, like you said, everything made sense. So I was like, okay, cool. Like I'm eating it all up right now. I'm just like, okay, I'll take it.
And like one thing adds to the other. Like it's all sort of connecting and it makes sense. Whereas like in past seasons, you're like, why would they do this to like do that? Or like, why would he do this? And like nothing really made sense, but this is all sort of coming together, and our girl finally discovered her little superpower. So do we talk about that now or do we talk about it later?
Let's talk about it after.
Okay.
Let's talk about it at the very end. Okay, so it starts right off with Betty and Archie in bed, and turns out that our girl Betty is not pregnant.
Yeah.
So without getting into the nitty-gritty of it, essentially they say, like, you know, they'd love to be parents. You know, Archie has some really good moments. He seemed
disappointed.
He seemed very disappointed.
Yeah.
He was like, I feel like we would have figured it out, and honestly, like in this dark time, like a baby would have been awesome.
And that was really cute because she was like, it's just not the right timing. Like it's okay. Like maybe one day it'll happen, but like it's not meant to be right now. And he was like, well, like it's so dark that like it would have been nice to like have something that's light. And it was so cute of him to say it that way.
Sure. And she says it'll happen someday, which was really cute too. So
and he wants to be a young dad, so also that.
Yeah, young hot dad. So yeah, it was interesting. I am disappointed that they didn't end up getting pregnant at this point in time.
Do you think it'll still happen by end of season?
I think so, only because in Riverdale, that's what happens, right? She ends up getting pregnant by sacrificing him. So I wonder if there is still something, because we always have to keep an eye, as all the fans and listeners have been telling us, you know, like keep an eye on what happened in Riverdale to like see what's happening in Riverdale. So they did have a pregnancy thing happening even in Riverdale. So this could end up with her having, and it'll be a nice little finale being like,
I think
pregnancy test says yes, you know, like.
It's funny because like later on when she's like, the bleach, I can't handle the bleach smell.
I know, I was like, she's so pregnant? Yeah, I know, me too.
She's like, I'm so nauseous, I'm going to throw up. I was like, are you sure you're not pregnant?
Are you on your period still? Because you might be pregnant. Anyway,
which apparently you could still be on your period and be pregnant.
Oh, wow.
If you ever watch that show, Unexpected, when people are like basically 9 months and they just pop out a baby and they didn't know they were pregnant.
Right.
You could literally still have your period the entire time.
No.
Yeah, because your hormones are like, it's usually like people that are like overweight or like have like different like things.
Yeah.
Because your body's like hormones, like it just doesn't understand what's happening.
Wow.
You could still have like a fully functioning like period and like not even like realize it.
And then you're just like gaining weight, and then it's
or like some people don't even, because if like you're really big, like you don't really gain more and more weight, or you don't feel it.
That's so interesting.
My husband just said this to me, like he asked me and I was like, yeah, you could fully have like your period, like, and he's like, what the hell?
That's amazing. The woman's body.
Yeah, and he's like, y'all are crazy.
Y'all are the most. Okay.
The mostest.
Then it cuts to Veronica and Reggie at the Pembroke, and like now at this point in time in their relationship, they're like, boop bop boop, like you're gone. Like she's done.
She's like,
done,
get out,
done.
pack your shit, like leave nothing behind.
She's pissed. Yeah. So they're dropping stuff or whatever. She's like, take your shit. And Reggie kind of calls her out because he says something that's really like intense, and he comes right for the jugular and says, you can't be alone. It's not in your nature. Didn't they call you the Black Widow of Wall Street? And I was like,
but they didn't. They called her the she-wolf. I didn't understand that.
They did, and I had to remember back. I was like, why would he have said that? And then once the episode ended with like her superpower, it was like, oh, so that's how they connected the spider story to her. It's because that's what happened to her when Chad got killed. When Chad died.
Oh, yeah.
That's why she couldn't return to Wall Street. Right. Is because like the guy was like, oh yeah, by the way, like everybody's calling you the Black Widow of Wall Street now. I was like, I totally forgot about that. Yeah. So that's why he says it. So anyway,
I have to say this argument was like, I'm going to say it right here again. Yeah. I'm feeling like this tension is like real tension. This shit is real. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say, because
that's all I'm going to say.
Because like the way he was saying it, like he was, you never take a break. You could never be single. And like, it's kind of true with their real life relationship. If you look at their track record, she's like literally never, like she's always with someone, and she always goes back to Charles. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
she was dating another guy for a minute. She broke up with Charles. She dated a guy for a minute, broke up with him, and then went back to Charles.
Anyway, going back to Veronica, she has a similar track record, I guess. And so she gets called out, and she doesn't even really have a rebuttal because she's like, true. It's like facts. Like she doesn't even know what else to say anything. Like, true, I guess that's fair. So then it cuts to Jughead typing, and you hear him say that Tabitha went to Albany to try to get Pops as a national landmark, which is why she's not in the episode.
She's not in the episode. Tabitha and Tony don't make an appearance this episode.
Yeah, which is why
honestly, like, it was okay, but it was okay because like there was so much other stuff happening, and I think the core five really like took the, you know,
I think they needed a moment to like step forward because Tony and Tabitha have been like, they were carrying this freaking season.
Yeah, exactly.
They're like, give us a fucking break. Like you guys deal with your own shit for one episode. So really quickly, it shows kind of a montage of Percival showing up and telling him that the public library in Riverdale is now closing, which I didn't understand that at all. I'm like, if you're trying to like make a new town, the public library is like an establishment.
So Jughead's like, why would you destroy the library? He's like, because we're building the railroad and like we need another depot.
I was like, okay,
this makes no sense. Like, at least make it like believable.
I will say this whole the reasoning why he got these books really annoyed me because I was like, this would never fucking happen. So I had to keep rooting myself in like, it's Riverdale. They're not gonna, because anyway, we'll talk about that. So,
but to your point, like it can happen when someone is literally a dictator and like they're running a town and no one can question that person. Of course it can happen, right? Like,
I guess, but like for books, like they could have found any other reason to like get their shit. Like he could have said like, all of you are under arrest for conspiracy. You know what I mean?
I think books have such a significance to like a society, like a group of people, a community, like to what Jughead says after. Yeah. Like, you know, they go for those intellectual knowledge things. It does make sense. Like if you cut that, like you're cutting like, you know, the education part of it too, which is like, you know, I get that.
But also we're pretending as if they don't have internet now. But
no, anyway, of course. Yeah. It's like, and it's like one book.
Yeah. So there is an outstanding book that he has. So he ends up taking his grandpa's book that his grandpa wrote, that we saw in season 3 during the Gargoyle King storyline, as collateral until he finds that book. And he literally has like the guy with the shotgun in the background being like, chick, like if you don't give us this book. I was like, whoa, relax. Like that's when I thought it was like a little intense. I'm like, you're looking for one fucking book, like chill. So then he ends up going to obviously Archie, Veronica, Cheryl, does the same thing to them.
And like they all offered money. He's like, no, I don't need money. He's like, I can't accept the money. It has to be something of value. Like, shut up.
I was gonna say it was really funny because Veronica does try to pay him out. And he's like, no, I still need the book or else you get arrested. Like like
Yeah.
she almost like called him out on it, because when Archie says like, oh yeah, he's like, you're gonna get fined, he's like, this is bullshit. But then when it went to Veronica, she was like, well, I'll pay you out because I'm fucking rich. Here's $1,000, like, get out of my face. And he was like, I still need your painting. So like,
he fumbled.
So I think that even his lie, you can tell that like it's not really foolproof. But he ends up taking the guitar that Grundy taught him on as collateral. He takes Veronica's painting of Hiram, and he also takes Cheryl's trunk with Jason's body in it. All of them. So all of them have collateral. And then also, we don't see this happening with Betty, but Alice calls Betty and says, they're looking for this book, and I gave you.
She's like, Mom, like, when I was 12 years old, she's like, yeah, that one. She's like, I don't know where the fuck it is. Like,
so she ends
like,
up.
So I gave your diary to them.
I was like, wow, like Alice is just terrible right now. She's such a shit mom.
So shit.
Anyway, so shit. And then also finally Reggie also has his book, and he was actually the only one
so cute
who had his book still, and he took it from him.
Yeah, he goes, that one here. He's like, it's right here. I'm like,
I was like, he's like, I probably use it like every day. This guy.
It really broke my heart. I was like, that's actually so. Because as they were going down the line, I was like, I wonder if anyone's gonna have the book still, and then what's Percival gonna say? And then as soon as I thought that, that's what happened to Reggie, and I'm like, that's actually so cute.
Yeah, and then he still took it because he still needs the book. He can still tie something.
Yeah.
So then it cuts to the four talking at Jughead's, and Cheryl's there as well. And they talk about the books and the value, like you were saying, like how important books are. But Cheryl takes it to another level, and she was like, I think that there's like some sorcery involved in this. Like he's attaching the book and the emotion that we got from these books, and like he wants them for some nefarious reason. So then it cuts to Percival and Kevin talking, and like all the stuff is like laid out on his desk. Like he has all the stuff that he took from them as collateral. And he kind of explains why he took their items. He uses the law, and he's like, it's the principle, and you can't just do this. And like, this is the reason why I took them, because if they do, they should know that, you know, breaking the law is illegal and blah, 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 blah. And Kevin kind of turns around and he's like, but you're not going to hurt them though, are you? And then Percival is like, well, just as an FYI, like you also have a book outstanding, so you go find that book for me too. So then he leaves, and then as soon as he leaves, like literally like 5 seconds later, he like lights a match and starts chanting this spell. So he's like enacting the spell right away. And this guy is like pure evil, but obviously Kevin is just a ding dong, and we'll talk about him a little bit later because I don't even want to give him any more airtime than he got this episode. Then it cuts to basically the manifestations, like kind of montage that happens. So each of them kind of get something happening to them because he's cast the spell. So at Riverdale High, Archie walks in, and they're reading a yearbook, and they're laughing at him playing the guitar. He's like, okay, that's enough. So like things are starting to happen in that regard, where it's like starting to bring up memories of him in high school playing in music. Then it cuts to Reggie, and he's playing cards, and the cards are like, he can't read them. They're all like distorted. He even like runs to his desk and checks a comic book that's in his desk, and the comic book is like, all distorted, and he's like, uh-oh, shit. Then it shows Betty, and she smells that strong smell. She's like, oh God, I'm pregnant. She looks over, and the janitor's cleaning the floors, and you get a shot of our man.
He's back.
The
longest standing guest star of all time. Like, I know, every single season, I think they brought him back.
He's back. So he was back for that. Well, literally that one shot, he's like, hey, and then she's obviously like hallucinating. So like,
I did love the connection though. Like, we'll talk about it in a minute. Yeah, but I did like that. Everything smell
really like moved together.
Yeah.
So then it cut to Veronica, and she's in her office, and she sees a spider on her portrait, and she like smacks it with a newspaper. But then like when she takes it away, like it's not there.
There's
like,
nothing
she's
there.
Like, oh, weird. Yeah. So like, did she imagine it? She's not even really sure. And then it shows Jughead, and he's typing, and he's getting like all these like welts all over his hands,
like blisters.
And he's like, and we're like, what the fuck is going on in there? So anyway, so everyone's kind of like getting something
What does
happening.
Cheryl get?
Cheryl's doesn't show up until another second.
Oh,
So
okay.
like after that scene, it shows Betty visiting Percival, and she's like, "I want my diary back," and he's like, "You can't have it
This
back."
girl needs to stop writing in her diary. Like, she
I
really
know.
does.
You should have just like
just
burned
take a
it
mental note of
realistically.
everything.
Yeah,
Like, stop.
just leave it. But she's like, yeah, he's like, you can't take this back, but you can read it here if you want to. So she decides to read this book of her diary when she knows that he can control her mind. And she like, I just didn't understand why she even decided to like stay and read.
And like, why did she? Oh, because she needed to access that memory.
She wanted to access that memory because like he's obviously like fucking with her.
Yeah.
So then it cuts to Cheryl at home, and she starts to hear like kids laughing, like hee 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 hee, and she follows the noise, and it's like her bed, and there's like a lump, like it's like a body just like laying there. It's like the movie The Others. You remember the movie The Others? And then they did like the parody of it where it's like Michael Jackson underneath.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Eey, that's creepy.
so anyway, it's like the figure under the covers, and she's like, "Heather, is that you?" She like keeps calling out to Heather.
Like, why would it be Heather?
And then I know, like, why is she just sitting on the bed, like covered up, like not speaking to you? But okay. She pulls up the covers, and it's like roses and flowers, and she's like, "Get it?
She's like, I get it,
Flowers
Heather.
in
You
the
want me
attic."
back.
Yeah, but all of them do have like the books and the connections. I don't want to get into deep because I didn't write any of them down. I only kind of remember, but like, Flowers in the Attic is about an abusive mother. From what I remember, I don't know anything about the Spider-Woman story, but there's a few that were connected to their stories, whether it was like their item, their totem, or the book that they had. Like he obviously brings that forward.
And I liked Betty's because the whole time I'm trying to hers was like the engine that could or something like that.
It was
and
like
I was
a book on like,
and I was like,
yeah.
why would that be like her connection? But then after she explains that the book was what she was reading when her dad like did whatever,
Had the bleach
so like
and
it's
all
not a
that stuff.
literal connection, but it's like an emotional, mental connection there.
Yeah,
To
exactly.
that memory, I was like, okay, I like
Exactly.
that idea
Yeah,
too.
it was cool. So then Archie at school, he's by himself and he hears a cello playing in the music room. He walks over and he gets a flash of Miss Grundy playing the cello, and then it's her like this, like chilling and playing the guitar. She's obviously like dead. And then it kind of cuts to Percival playing the cello in
That was so eerie.
in his place, right? So I was
Like,
like,
because I think Archie like walks away and then the camera like goes back and then now it's
Yeah.
like Percival. I was like, oh my
I
god,
was
that
like,
is
so
creepy.
creepy. Yeah, so he's obviously controlling that situation for them. Then it cuts to Jughead, and his fingernails start falling off.
I couldn't watch the scene; it was so gross.
He
And
thinks
the
that he's
sound
turning into a
effects.
cockroach because I guess that book Metamorphosis had
He's like,
something.
I
to
have
do with him turning
eczema.
into a
I'm like,
cockroach.
bitch, that's not eczema. That is like your skin is melting.
I was like, that is something else. You need to go to a doctor right now. It is interesting though, and we can talk about it a little bit later too, but like some of them were just like apparitions, but some of them were like long lasting effects of like things that happened to people. So like he still had his eczema by the end of it, but like Grundy was just like haunting Archie.
Yeah.
Like it's not like she ever appeared and did anything to him.
True.
So it's like other people were affected in different ways. Anyway, then it cuts to Reggie, and he goes to visit him at the shop, and he's like, "Yo, I need that book back. Like, I can't read right now. Like,
Yeah.
that book really meant a lot to me as a kid." And he tells him that he can't have it, so then he offers him a Glamourget egg instead, which like there was no connection whatsoever.
No connection
Like,
whatsoever.
zero. But then even Reggie was like, "I don't need a fucking Glamourget egg. Like,
Yeah.
don't give this to me." And he kind of tells him to do it. So like he gets into his head, and he tells him to take it to Veronica as a gift. So he does it. So at this
Even
point
Reggie's
in time,
like, but we broke up. He's like, I have nothing to
Yeah.
do with her anymore. He's like, what's up with that? And then he had to
Yeah.
like
he's like,
convince him to do it.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
So at this point in time, Reggie's being controlled by him.
Yeah.
And this kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier with like how the core four, even the core three without Veronica, knowing all this information about Percival at this point, how dangerous he is,
Yeah.
what he can do to like fuck up your mind. Like, I feel like they would have like sent a memo to everyone. It's like
Yeah, because
they turned Reggie evil because they're like not letting
he
him
didn't know, and he
be a
didn't know
part of it.
when Percival was doing that to him. I'm like, Reggie, like do something, but I'm like, oh, he doesn't even know what to do.
He doesn't know because they didn't tell him anything.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of annoyed about the fact that like these guys are like, oh no, we got to save the town, and like
and
we
like
need to make sure our friends are okay. Like you guys didn't tell them anything. No, you guys didn't do shit.
At the end when they're like, Reggie went to the dark side, I'm like, you didn't even try to keep him on your side. You didn't even tell him anything.
Exactly. Like obviously he's going there. Like geez. So anyway, so now he goes and takes this egg to Veronica. Then it cuts to Archie and Betty talking, and they're kind of like recapping their day. And Betty tells him about the bleach and how that memory, like the smell, like triggered this memory of her dad cleaning the family car. And she realized in that moment that the bleach was what he was using to clean up the blood out of the family car.
Messed up. So messed up. Like
it was so fucked up because I'm like, I feel like people like it's not like it happens all the time, but when these things happen, when they're like these serial killers have these secret families and whatever, these things start to get triggered in your mind.
I was watching, I don't remember which one it was. It was on Netflix, I think. We watched it, and the nephew, when they years later found out that man, like it was like his uncle.
Right.
The uncle was a legit serial killer. Okay. Wow. He killed, I think it was like in San Francisco or something.
Yeah.
He's like, one night we were at their house.
Yeah.
Or like their house, and there's like we were all sleeping in like sleeping bags, like the kids, like the nieces and nephews. And he's like, I woke up and I saw my uncle come into the house with a bag over his head, like a hoodie, whatever. And like I think he took it off or something, but he's like, I saw it, and he was like, go back to sleep. And he's like, for my whole freaking life, like 25 years, he's like, that memory, I never forgot of my uncle. Like, he's like, I was like, what is he doing here? Because it was like their house, but they lived like down the block from each other. He's like, why would he be at my house? Why is he wearing a black hood? And then years later, when it came out that he was the murderer, he told his family, he's like, I saw him that night. And of course, that night was a murder. Like, they connected it after. Yeah. He was coming, he had killed someone, and he came to their house to like change his clothes.
Clean. Oh my God.
Like, and now he like pieced it together. He's like, that was the night.
So yeah, that shit happens for real. So like her having this memory, I was like, Jesus.
Crazy.
Like
very traumatic.
That people deal with. Yeah, for sure. And in this moment, it was interesting, and I want to know if you have any takes on it, but Archie doesn't really divulge any information about what he saw with Grundy.
He doesn't.
Were you okay with that?
I just didn't understand why. Like at this point, so the only thing I could really chalk it up to, because then later he does sort of like have to.
He does tell her,
he does say it, and he has to confront it. I feel like he's a little embarrassed, maybe, of what he did with Grundy.
True.
I feel like that was probably like the darkest, like Archie we've seen, or like the most twisted, because like he did like of his teacher and like kind of like in secret and stuff like that. I think he was probably embarrassed to go back to that time of his life.
Totally.
To access that. That's all I could chalk it up to. But I wish they said that if that was the case. He would have been like, it's a little embarrassing that like I was the kid that like effed my teacher.
Yeah. I guess he does talk about it later.
Yeah.
But like in this moment, that's a really good point. Like he probably didn't really want to bring that memory back.
Yeah. And she does say like he was groomed and stuff like that. So they do talk about it. Yeah.
Anyway, so then it cuts to Jughead going to Sketch Alley because he remembers that the book might be with Doc, the homeless guy. And so he meets Hank, who's the only one left at Sketch Alley, and Hank ends up telling him that, like this British guy came by, told all the homeless people to walk until they hit the ocean, and they all just like picked up and left. Like he's like, they just left. And then Jughead's like, but why didn't you go? And he was like, he told them to walk, and like, I can't walk. I was like, that is
oh my God.
I was like, should I laugh at this? Like, it's like a disabled joke. Like,
no one have like pushed him along with them. Like they could have carried him or something.
No, but I think like he wasn't compelled to go because like it was like walk. So he heard it probably. And like he wasn't compelled to go because like literally he cannot walk. Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. I didn't even think of that. Yeah.
So, but I was like, that's a really weird way of saying that. Like he can't walk because he's in a wheel. Like I was like, that's kind of
look at me. I can't. I'm like,
I was like, that's so tight.
But so that's so true that to your point, if he said walk and he can't walk.
If he just said like leave, they probably would have all left.
Like roll away. Then maybe he would have been like.
He said like, yeah. Anyway. So. Crazy. He asked about the book. He's like, I'm looking for this book that I let Doc borrow. And he was like,
it killed
yeah,
me because he was like, they went west to the water, and then later he's like, they went to Venice, and Jughead's like, Venice,
like
and
Venice
he's like,
Beach,
yeah,
all
I
the
told you
way.
they went west to the water.
Like they kept
doing
walking.
like geography now.
Yeah. So he's like, yeah, like I have a contact in Venice Beach or whatever. Like I'll help you find this book.
Like Doc is there, but to your point, mention your point.
Yeah, my point
Doc.
was Doc. I thought that Doc was in jail because he hit Kevin with over the head, and he was like jailed, like he was still in jail.
Was that in Riverdale?
No, that was in Riverdale. That happened in Riverdale.
Because you're right. That's what.
Unless he released him and
unless
then he told
like
them all
snuck
to
away
leave.
Or something.
Like maybe Percival just like released him from the prison and then like he left, but like we never got that information.
True.
Anyway. So then it cuts to Veronica and she gets his gift. Smithers comes in with his gift that Reggie gave her, and then he leaves. And then she opens it up and it's the Glamourget egg. And she opens up the Glamourget egg and there's like spiders, like all these like black widow spiders crawling everywhere. She drops the egg and then she looks over again and all the spiders are gone again. So she's like confused. She's like, what the fuck just happened? But she doesn't really think anything of it because like all the spiders are gone now. Then it cuts to Kevin and Moose talking, and Moose actually had his book and they had a moment where they talk about the Lord of the Flies and the characters in it, and Moose is like, I had a crush on the main character.
He was like so hot.
He was so hot, and Kevin's like, yeah, I was Piggy. I was like the fat one. Like he was like, I had a connection to him because like I was a chubby kid, and Moose is like, well, you're hot now, and Kevin's like, I still feel fat and ugly, so once a piggy, always a piggy.
I'm still useless right now because like my character is just like a waistband.
Yeah, I'm kind of a floundering loser, so I'm gonna deal with my own shit. Thank you. So anyway, clearly they're trying to have some Kevin and Moose.
Yeah,
moments.
and
what do you think about this?
You know what? I really want to like it.
Yeah.
But I just feel like they're using Moose as another crutch to access Kevin's emotional parts of him.
Agreed.
Like, and that's not how it should have ever been. Kevin has been on the show long enough where he could have accessed those moments on his own. Like by maybe some other new people that he's met. Like, why is he now going all the way back to Moose? Like,
right. He could have easily, like, they could have made it like he found the book and his dad talks to him about it or something. Like, why did it have to be connected to another guy? But I guess, anyway, we'll talk about Kevin and his stupid ass storyline in a minute. So then it cuts to Cheryl, and she's talking to the core four at her house, and she's saying that these items, these totems, are being used to torture them. And she kind of asks if anything has happened that's similar, because she's like, I had mine scared with Heather in the bed. And Jughead's like, yeah, it's happening to me. And he like pulls off his glove and like his whole hand is like all mangled. And it's because his grandpa also had eczema and he was all alone when they found him. And he's afraid, like one of his biggest fears is like dying alone and like not publishing a book and like having really, really bad eczema. Like shit, that's serious.
Yeah.
So Cheryl says, like, we need to find these books so we can return them, or we need to face our demons. Like,
shout out to Cheryl for like knowing everything this episode. I loved it.
I know. I was like, thank goodness for Cheryl, because otherwise these guys would be like left field.
And I think somebody does question her, and I did appreciate that. They were like, Cheryl, like, how do you know all these things?
Like, why are you so blasé about it? I've been dabbling
like here and there, and I was like, okay, at least like they're asking her like those normal questions, because like I'd be like, girl,
she's not sitting there like
thing?
Gagged. She's like, I'm sitting here like I know everything. My ghost is kind of cool, so it's fine.
Yeah,
like she was cool with it.
She's like, me and my ghost have history.
Yeah, she's like, actually, ghost sex is really hot. So then it cuts to Archie breaking into Percival's shop, and
he's so sly.
I know. He's like,
I'm gonna get this shit.
I'm like, bro, like none
I'm
of these
gonna commit robbery.
Yeah,
against
so he's
a freaking witch, whatever they're
witch
called.
Wizard, demon
wizard,
monster, man. So he is looking for his guitar. He can't find his guitar. Instead, he finds a cello, and it actually has a note from Percival saying, like, your shit's not here, dummy.
Bitch.
Like, you
try again.
But you can take this stupid cello that you probably don't even know how to play.
And stick it up your.
And he takes it. He takes the fucking cello. I was like, why would you take the cello? Anyways, so he takes the cello. Then it cuts to Jughead visiting Hank again, and it turns out that Doc had sold the book at some bookstore in the middle of Pennsylvania.
Along the road. Yeah.
Along the road, because he has to like shed his stuff and like whatever. He had like no money, obviously. And it's in Pennsylvania. So now Jughead's like, sick, I gotta go to Pennsylvania.
Also, they kept referencing like all of these different books shops.
Yeah.
And I can guarantee you they're all real book shops that are like iconic bookstores like around America.
Yeah.
They kept saying the name and I'm like, okay,
yeah,
we get it. Like this must be popular.
They're trying to like advertise bookshops because they're like, don't buy from Amazon anymore. So then it cuts to the school, and the kids are going through the yearbook again in Archie's class, and this time they actually make fun of him specifically about Miss Grundy.
Yeah.
He's like, they're like, oh yeah, like of course you checked out music.
If your teacher was this like, I'd do her too.
I'd have sex with her too.
I love how like the picture of Grundy in the thing though was a screenshot of the first episode when we see her doing the thing. I was like, it's just a screenshot of the episode.
It's just
I died.
A screen grab. And he gets really, really pissed, and he takes the book from them, and he's like, don't ever do this again, or I'm gonna like.
Did he question? Because I was thinking that the yearbooks were actually coming. Like, who was even putting those old yearbooks there? And I was like, are they gonna get to that?
I don't think that they're gonna get to it, but I think that like at that point you kind of assume that Percival probably like laid that shit somewhere so they could see it and like mess with him. So then later in his office, his cello's just like sitting there. He like has a flash memory of everything that happened with Grundy, like the sex in the car and like the this and the this and the this and the this. And he gets so upset he grabs a cello and he like smashes it. Of course, Archie using like blunt force for everything to try to solve all of his problems. It doesn't go away, but he like now is gotten rid of this fucking cello. Then it cuts to Percival reading the book, like he's reading the book that Kevin returned, like The Lord of the Flies, and Kevin says something about how, you know, the book kind of triggered me and it made me feel sick, and Percival's like, you need to like accept that and like let your old self die. And he has this moment with him where he's basically telling him like, if you align with me, I'm here to like hold all your secrets and like only I can release them from you. And then we get a moment that we can now talk about for maximum 2 minutes, and then I'm moving on because I cannot deal. He kisses Kevin.
Right.
And I was like, first of all, I didn't realize how alike they looked until they kissed. And I was like, are you guys just kissing a mirror at this point? Like, fucking gay guys, man. Like, just constantly making out with themselves.
What is your, like, what's your issue with it?
I think my issue is I understand why he's doing it. He's obviously doing it so he can, like, have Kevin in that story. My frustration is what we've been saying this whole time is, like, every single time Kevin has an opportunity to step forward as a character that can have his own story, it's always wrapped up with him and a guy and him and like making out with a guy. And I know that's a part of his trauma, and obviously like this is why he has all that shit going on with like going to the woods and all that other stuff. But I'm like, everyone has kind of moved past a certain point of time in their lives, and like he broke up his whole marriage because he has this illness and this like he doesn't know why he can't keep going to the woods. And I'm like, instead of going and making out with this fucking the mayor of the town, maybe like go to a therapist, like maybe figure out your own shit. And I just got annoyed because I'm just like, of course Kevin's making out with
I do find that like it's not his choice right now though. Like I do feel like Percival is like coaxing him a little bit. But what I will say more so for the writers is like, why do you have to make Kevin the character that ends up having this romantic sexual relationship with Percival?
Yeah.
Like, why does he have to have that? Why couldn't you do that to Reggie? Like,
right.
You're like so shocking in a weird way. I don't know. Why does it have to be him? Why can't it be a girl? Like, why can't Percival go hit on a girl? Like, why does it always have to be Kevin's storyline that gets sexualized and like romanticized in a weird way?
In a weird way. And I'm just like, of course he's like this evil person that like, why do we need to keep being reminded that Kevin is this like bitch boy? That,
why did you have to kiss him? He was already following you and everything. Like, so why was the like? I didn't need the kiss.
I guess it's like the manipulation of him being like, okay, now like he's solidified in my army. Like we're good to go.
Yeah,
like, Kevin's a part.
I
of my
guess because
army.
like Kevin was questioning things in the beginning too. So maybe then Percival felt like he had to like up the ante and be like, let me kiss him.
But the problem is like, did he like he asked one question and then he's like, go find your book, and then he like
he did, and I thought he was gonna even go to the core 5 and be like, guys, this guy's doing something, but then he didn't even do that.
And that's what I mean. I feel like we never even got a chance for like a tug of war with these characters. So like even with, we'll talk about Reggie in a second, but like even with Reggie, like you'd think that they would have had some sort of like, oh no, like come to the good side, like you're good, like let's have a moment together. That would have been a cool and then Percival scene. Like pulls out like the last trick in his hat and is like, I love you and I'm gonna make out with you and like now you're part of my team. Yeah.
But Kevin never even went to the good side. So
yeah, exactly. Like, he just like elevated him to like boyfriend material now. Like I don't know. And then same with Reggie. Like Reggie just kept going down, 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 and like no one was there to be like, no, Reggie, like come this way, like we're all friends over here, like he's evil, like no one's warning these people, like I don't understand. So and it kind of reminds me back to I think it was either last episode or the episode before where Tabitha says like we need to get a hold of Kevin because I don't think that he's like completely gone to the dark side. And then they never really got back to Kevin. Well, they never had. It was the fog episode because they were supposed to get together in the council and it just didn't happen. And a part of me feels, and I've been obviously like a psycho thinking about this quite a bit, because we know that Tabitha can time jump, right? So even when she said that sentence and when she called it out, I made fun of it on our podcast. But now thinking about it more, I'm like, maybe she said it because she knows in the future Kevin really does play a pivotal role in like the balance of what happens. And I was like, okay, so like maybe, but then I was like, but they didn't pursue it. Like they didn't actually even try to recruit him. So he's just obviously he's evil. He's been evil for the last like 14 episodes.
I definitely wish there was a conversation, there was a scene that was had in the middle, especially with Kevin. Maybe not so much Reggie at this point, but like especially with Kevin, where like him and Betty talk it out, and he's like, no, he's like, I really like what he's standing up for, and I'm gonna go with him. Something where like they do try to bring him back, and like he just doesn't do that.
For sure. And like to your point with Betty, like your best friend, like your friend that you've known all your life, like you'd think that you would have had that connection or that communication with each other. But anyway, they're just letting him be evil. Okay, cool.
Which he already was at the farm. This whole storyline is just like recycled for Kevin.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I think that I'm the most annoyed that like he fell into this, because I'm just like, why are we doing this again?
Yeah.
So then it cuts to Archie at home, and Betty comes in with her sunglasses, her fucking sunglasses.
She's like so happy. She's like, hey, I got cucina sa casa, and he's like, what are you wearing? She's like,
these are sunglasses I got them at the grocery store. They were really, really
and
cute.
They had to like cut. I'm glad they cut to the scene because like I wouldn't have remembered that those were Grundy's like glasses.
Right. So he ends up saying that like those glasses was something that Grundy used to wear. She had a pair of those, and he tells the story of like how she's starting to manifest, and he's like, I didn't tell you before because this is what was happening to me. And Betty does tell him that, you know, we didn't really have the words for it back then. But she was grooming you. She was grooming you, and it wasn't right for her to have done that. So it's like, it's not your fault. And, you know, they do have a really nice moment where they kind of do talk about his traumatic past with her.
Yeah.
Because I think the problem too, and this is like mostly just like the writers in general and just Riverdale in general, when this storyline came out, you know, we had murders, we had all these crazy things happening. This was probably the first one that a lot of people like called out really badly, and they were like, you guys are talking about pedophiles in school when that's a real thing. Like, that's not what you should be showing in the show. So the fact that like this whole Grundy thing kind of came back. Yeah.
Can I ask you, okay, so let's say Grundy was never like screwing any of the other boys. It was just Archie, and like she literally like was like she did have feelings for him.
Right.
And he had feelings for her, and like he was the only one. Yeah. Would it have changed the context of what was happening? Like, would it still be?
I don't think so, because I think that we even learn about her hooking up with other guys like a season later or something. So even at that point in time, I think we're all kind of just walking around being like, that's pretty fucked up. Like this teacher basically took advantage of her student, you know? Like, you're an impressionable kid at 16 years old. Like, it's fucked up. So watching it, I think that was one of the things that you watch when the first episode of Riverdale, and you're like, yo, this is nuts. Like, I can't believe they're like showing this moment. But then you take a step back and you're like, in the reality of things, like, this is a predatory moment.
Yeah, like,
maybe
I have to say, like, I will be honest,
this, you know?
The first episode I was like, damn, that's kind of hot. But I'm just thinking that like they like each other. Like, she's not like going and doing this with like all the other boys too. People. And then that obviously changes everything. Like, you know,
for sure. You like realize all these things. And And it's true. It's kind of interesting when she says like we didn't have the words for it, because it's almost like the writers are calling out themselves, saying like we didn't even really know how serious of a situation it was back then.
We were showing,
for us to like now come like 6 years later to like bring it back and be like, sorry, we did that. I think it was an interesting apology to the audience.
No, I did appreciate it. And honestly, like it was a really good storyline though. Like if you want to talk real, like it could have been a storyline that, I mean, it did work in a sense. Like it was, they just had to do it in the right way, I think. And I don't think they were prepared for that in the first season.
100%. Yeah. I don't think they were prepared to like get into the like context,
of, like,
the
what
whole
is grooming
context of it.
Yeah,
exactly. Anyway, so then that happens. They have a really sweet moment. Barchie has a sweet moment. Then it cuts to Veronica with Geraldo having a drink. This girl did not waste no time. She like moved, like she literally played right into what Reggie said. And she was like,
totally.
Oh yeah, I am gonna fuck someone else. Yeah, and it's gonna be Geraldo, and it's gonna be great. And that's exactly what she does.
I mean, he's cute. Like I have no problem with that. Like he's.
I mean, we did say this from like when we first saw Geraldo. Like we can't wait for them to hook up.
It's too bad he didn't last longer.
Like in all ways possible. So he does ask about Reggie and asks if it's like he's like, am I the rebound? And she's like, I don't care. And then they make out. And then the next morning she was like, oh yeah, that was great. She
was like in heaven. She's like, yes,
she's like, this is so sexy.
And then he was like passed out on the pillow. Like the guy's face is like in the pillow. Like how do you even breathe like that?
So then she pulls him to the side and his like tongue's hanging out. He's like dead.
She's probably like sweats or something. She's like, damn, I'm so good.
He like passed out. She was like feeling herself. She's like, never mind. I fucked him until he died. Like,
well, kind of.
Your sex.
He looked really gross though. Like it was like veiny. And like,
his like tongue was purple and stuff.
It reminded me of the kid from Game of Thrones when he died. Remember? The
king. Oh yeah, the king.
It was
King
like the
Joffrey.
same like vibe.
Yeah, it's poison. So he died.
Poison. Spoiler alert. 8 years later.
And so she ends up calling Reggie, being like, "You idiot! That Glamourget egg that you brought me was filled with like spiders, all these like spiders."
I was like wondering where she's going with that, and then she's like, the spiders got away. I was like,
and like bit Geraldo, and now he's dead. It's all your fault. And Reggie's like, I never gave you that egg with spiders in it. It was empty when I gave it to you, you psycho. Are you sure you didn't just?
And then he was like, what's he doing there anyes? Like, she's like, you damn well know what he did here.
Yeah. She dicked me down, and we moved on. So Geraldo's literally like, or not Geraldo, Reggie's basically like, I got the egg from the curiosity shop. And then Veronica's puts it all together, and she's like, you fucking moron. You idiot. And the one thing I will say, and we don't really have to harp on it because I think it's just Riverdale and we just have to go with it, but like, you found a dead man in your like bed and you're just like, ugh, Reggie, there's someone dead in my room. Like, what did you do?
No, but like she's trying to understand like where the the spiders came from. Like,
like, is she not like completely upset that she killed her grandma's like fucking right hand man?
She just like D'd him up, and that was it.
She doesn't give a shit.
She doesn't give a shit.
She doesn't give a fuck. She fucked him and she like left him. She was like,
I'm kind of like low key cheesed about that because like he was really cute, and I really like was excited for something to happen between the two of them.
Yeah,
like this like hot like mafia like relationship.
Yeah,
but then like he didn't last, so I'm like, I'm kind of like.
And also like going back to what I was saying about like some of the traumas kind of manifesting in different ways, I was like, oh, like, is this a dream? You know what I mean? Like just like Grundy, just like all these people, but like he was actually dead. Like that was the consequence of like, what she ended up happening to her. So I was like, oh shit, like she fucking killed him.
My question is though, maybe we can talk about it later too, is like what triggers her thing? Like what triggered her power?
I guess, and that's the thing that I don't really understand when we get to the end of the episode. But let's talk about it then.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I have a few questions about it as well. So then it cuts to the FBI office and the TBK survivor. We find out her name. Her name is Catherine. She gave a full report. And the woman that's talking to Betty basically says that the one thing that's in the report is he kept the light on. And when she says like he kept the light on, Betty has this like crazy flashback of her dad putting her to bed as a kid and telling her like, I'll keep the light on, but don't worry, everyone should be afraid of us, Betty. And that kind of like hit her. And then she goes back to like the present time and she looks at her agent and she says, this might not be like a single drifter guy. Like he might actually have a family. The TBK might actually have a family. So start looking into, you know, like people with families, people who like leave home, like leave their place for work for long periods of time, and especially find people who have like daughters as like a part of their family, like young daughters. I'm like, that's like 90% of the fucking American population.
Like, what does that mean?
Good luck narrowing that shit down.
Do you think a part of this could be that she is the TBK?
I don't think so. I know that
like
that theory is
else.
still kind of like, but I think that he
maybe
is. Because a part of me is like, yes, I can imagine like it being manifested, but I'm trying to think of all the moments that we've seen the TBK. Like, let's imagine like her cutting up the body. Yes, that could have been her. That could have just been her. But the one piece that I feel like is definitely not her was when Archie got taken upstairs and was about to get chopped up by the guy. Like when they actually meet the TBK, that is when you're like, okay, she's not just like a figment.
And that could have been Percival, right? Like that had nothing to do with Percival.
I don't think so, unless he like masked her, like he he made him think that it was Betty, but it wasn't Betty. Like, I don't know.
So when I say the TBK is Betty, I don't mean like literally like she's the TBK. Like I feel like she's created this monster in her mind,
right?
And I don't know if you remember Shutter Island, that movie with Leo,
but
and like how
little.
Basically he was at this like psychiatric hospital, and he was seeing all these things, and like he was like acting out like these events, and at the end of the movie they're like, we just set up everything for you because you kept living in that like traumatic like memory, and the only way we could get to the end was like to make you live through these things or whatever it is. So I'm wondering if like the FBI, and like now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, they literally made like a satellite office for her. They like fired all the men. They like brought like women in. I'm like, are they like letting her believe like she's created this thing in her mind? And I don't know. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like,
I know what you're trying to say, and like
I don't
maybe
know
there
if
is
they
some
would
truth
get there.
to it. I just feel like the one piece that I don't really understand is that interaction that happens, and I'm like, there's no realness to that. Like, why? But I mean, anything's possible in Riverdale, I guess. Like, we can't cross it off and be like, she could be, that could be the gag.
Like,
and they could explain it some way, to some degree.
Yeah, you're right, because that wouldn't make sense.
Unless, like I said, like, unless like Percival hired that guy to or hired him to be the person that he's pretending to be. Like, who knows? Like, it's a really good point.
Because like they could be like, let her believe TBK is on the loose, and let her like try to like investigate, and let her go through the motions, and like go through the thought process, and maybe she'll end up at an answer of whatever and maybe TBK is like already found, like they already have him in custody, but they haven't told her that, you know,
for sure. No,
that'd be a crazy twist. Like that would be psycho.
Twist. And I feel like we'd have to just go along with it because like that's what they want to write, but like a lot of it doesn't make sense if that is going to be the case. But anyway, not yet, at least. So then it cuts to Reggie going into the curiosity shop. Oh wait, sorry, not before that. She gets a call from Archie saying that the books are found, and then it cuts to Reggie going to the curiosity shop, and he basically confronts him without any like use of like, you know, he just barrels right in there, and he's like, Percival, what are you doing? Like, this is what happened, and like with the glamour egg, like what kind of like magic wizard thing are you? And he calls him out, and then Percival's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I guess I'm a wizard to like some degree. And then Reggie's like pursues it, and he's like, if you're magic, like, can you teach me? And then Percival's like, yeah, if you want me to.
Yeah, that was so weird.
So that's how easy it was for Reggie to like just like turn
To
to
go on
his
the other
side. Like
side,
I was
yeah.
like, you had to
Like,
you
since
had
when
to
did Reggie want superpowers
I
or
know
like witch
exactly.
powers?
And why did you want it so badly? For what? To like be able to read your books again? Like I
If
don't
he was more
understand.
like, can you make me successful? Can you make me rich? Can you make me like,
Yes.
you know, the it guy in town? Yeah, I can do that for
Then
you.
it would
Okay,
make
cool.
sense. But
But
there's
like
no
for him to
reason.
ask for like witch powers, I was like, since when did
Since
Reggie
when
want
do you
that?
care about magic? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he kind of falls into that. And again, it's just like Reggie just jumped on this, but like Kevin had to be made out with in order for him to
Yeah,
like be
yeah.
recruited
I
fully.
thought for a
I
minute, I'm
was
like,
like,
is he gonna kiss Reggie too?
see, and that I would have been like okay with. I'm like, if you're out here
He
just
just
like
kisses
being
everyone.
this psycho. I
Yeah.
mean, they have these mythological creatures who like are, you know, like tempt people to like stay
But
with
he's
them,
never been
man,
that kind of
woman.
like villain. So that was a very surprising moment for
It's
him to
very
even
weird.
kiss Kevin, because
Yeah.
he hasn't been very sexual. I know what you're saying, and like he
Yeah.
hasn't been like that. He's been very like just mind
Precisely.
control, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So I just
Anyways.
didn't really get it. Anyway, so then it cuts to Jughead talking to the other four about giving the books back because now he found them. And Cheryl says, we need these totems back and we have to do something with them once we get them back as well. Like we have to like find a way to like cleanse them or something. Then it cuts to Percival talking to them at the shop and he's like, yeah, I'll give you your totems back. And Veronica actually says like, keep the fucking painting. Like
I
I
don't need
don't
my
want
daddy. I
it.
don't need him anymore.
I was like, why are you so dumb? Literally, Cheryl told you like you need to like deal with these
There's
things.
something
Like,
there, eh? Like if
I
the
didn't-
fact that she's leaving the painting, I
she
feel
kept
like
it there. Yeah, I didn't understand why like that would have even. I was actually very annoyed by it because I'm
Yeah.
like, you know the gravity of the situation, Veronica. What is wrong
like
with you?
just yeah.
Like just take it back and like put it in the closet. Like why do you even care?
Yeah.
So then it cuts to Betty and she has a really quick moment with Archie and she talks about how, you know, this all these things with the books really like tapped into her memory and unlocked a lot of things. And she says she feels like she only scratched the surface of what's hidden inside of her. So going back to what you just said about the TBK, maybe that is going to be the progression of the story, because a part of me when I watched the scene, I was like, it's such a quick scene. And like, why did we even need that scene?
Yeah.
Obviously it's being unlocked. And you know, you've said this a few times too, like we always get this dark Betty, she's a serial killer, she's not a serial killer. Like, why are we getting it again? But if the reveal is finally like I was the TBK this whole time, then I'd be like, oh, she's really tapping into like the deep, dark killer side of her. And like she hasn't really scratched the surface on it, even though I feel like we have gotten that storyline all this time. So I don't know.
Yeah,
What do you think?
it's definitely a crazy storyline. To your point, if that Archie scene never happened,
Yeah.
this would be a very high viable contender for like a possible storyline. Even even her saying, I ran away from Riverdale and I lost his track somewhere in Ohio. and
Yeah,
I
she
came
could have done
back.
that all on
Like,
her own. Yeah.
you could have done that. How do you know
It
he's
was
chasing
sketchy.
you? Like,
For sure.
you know?
For sure. Absolutely. So everything else adds up except for that
Yeah,
moment. But like I said,
yeah.
maybe there was some magic that was involved in him even being there, or maybe he was paid, like you were
Yeah.
saying. So like there are still possibilities that
Yeah.
the reveal could be there. And I just had a thought. You did mention a couple episodes ago that the next musical episode is going to be American Psycho.
You're
So
right.
like maybe she's
But it's
the Ameri-
Archie.
Oh, he is.
They had photos of KJ in like a suit, and they're like, he's gonna be
okay.
the American Psycho. I'm like, I don't
Which
get
makes no
that. Like, how
sense.
is he the American Psycho? Like he's
Like
the
of
American
all
hero.
characters, he's like the
I
opposite
didn't
of that.
understand that. But anyways,
Okay.
well, maybe they will play something
Yeah.
into that. Like maybe each character will have like a face of the American Psycho, like a version of
Right.
themselves or something.
And maybe that's when we'll uncover the fact that like she is the TBK as well.
Again,
And
when
maybe
I
they'll
say
explain
like
everything. Who knows?
yeah, when I say like she's a TPK, I don't mean literally like she killed like thousands of people. I just mean that like maybe he was real. They
Right.
caught him, and like
Right.
now she's living in this like weird demented
world.
version of
Yeah,
like him still
yeah.
being there, and she's
Right.
chasing him.
Right. And that's what you were saying with like the agents, like they're like, she needs this. Like,
Yeah,
she
yeah.
needs to deal with this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you could completely
I
be
don't
right.
know.
Like,
I mean, I
totally
wouldn't be
see
mad
that.
at that storyline,
Yeah.
honestly. Like, I really
Yeah.
wouldn't.
Like she has like a full psychotic break.
Yeah.
So-
After being in the FBI and like being in that thing for like so many years, like I mean,
Totally.
but we have seen her have a psychotic break, right?
but maybe
kind
like
of
not to this degree
not
at
to this
like
extent. Yeah.
at like an adult level. So like
Yeah.
maybe we'll see what
Yeah.
happens next with her. But it's interesting. I'm interested to see what
Yeah.
happens with her next. So then it cuts to Cheryl calling them all over to her place and her little bonbon fire that she has. So everyone has their stuff in the fireplace.
Yeah.
And right at the very last minute, Jughead's like, honestly, that book is super important to me that I got from my grandpa. He doesn't even have a gravestone.
I thought
like,
that too. I was like, yeah, that's kind of tight to
I was like,
burn
that's kind of
it.
tight. So then he takes the book out and he, like everybody else,
But
burns it.
again, like to the point of Veronica's keeping her daddy painting with Percival, I was like, does that mean something now? Like him pulling his book out? Because
Precisely.
Cheryl does say that. She's like, okay, I'm just warning
Like,
you.
I
like,
warned you. Yeah.
that thing is like tainted now. Like, you keep it at your own risk. And he's like, yeah, that's fine.
And that's the thing. My thing is like knowing how the gravity of the situation, and especially with Jughead, who had to deal with it from the very beginning, learning about Percival and all this stuff and trying to stop him. You think that he'd be like, okay, I guess I got to sacrifice this book for the greater good.
It's just hard though when it's like
Cheryl's,
a part of like your.
Yeah, I get that for sure. I understand.
Or like
why
just
he did
photocopy it and then like burn it.
I was just like,
You
this
know?
is not the book that you need to keep.
Like create a
that's for
duplicate
sure.
or something.
Yeah, exactly.
I also loved how like Cheryl like lit that shit on fire and like no one even questioned. They're like,
everyone's like, cool.
good job. I'm like,
thanks.
Are you guys not gonna question her like new superpower?
No one's gonna talk about it.
Like,
no one's gonna
what?
talk about that. She's literally a fucking pyrokinetic.
She just farted out fire. Like no one's gonna like be like, girl, when did you learn how to do that?
She's like, good for you. So then it cuts to Percival and he's writing in his little book of allies and he adds Kevin.
His diary.
And he's like, dear diary, Reggie's now a part of my group as well. He's getting the hottie Reggie in his group. And yeah, so now they're a part of his crew. And then it cuts to the final scene that we get, which is Veronica
so
chilling, hanging out. And she gets a call from Dr. Curdle Jr. about Geraldo's body. And like he finished a toxicology report. And he's like, yes, he was actually poisoned by Black Widow poison. But
Dr. Curdle Jr. needs to win an Emmy for like the way he delivers these dramatic lines.
He's always
and
like, I'm here.
How many times have we ended an episode with him? Like,
yeah,
he's like,
he's always the gag.
Was burned, or
they all shot themselves.
No bullet marks.
Yeah, they all shot themselves dead.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, it's true. He always gets like the gaggy moment.
I want to know if you thought the same thing. Because he's like, there was toxicology report. He had what's it called?
All these like he had no bite marks.
The spider?
Black
Widow venom like in him and like more than like what should even kill a man. Like you can't kill a man like that. And she's like, oh my God. And he's like multiple like spiders maybe.
Yeah.
And he's like, she's like, oh, she's like, yeah. And then he's like, but there was no entrance wound. Yeah. And she's like, oh my God, like how did he get infected? And he's like, it was from a body part. And I'm like,
I thought it was from her Virginia.
Me too. Like, yeah, me too. I was like,
it was all over his dick.
Go there. Like I thought he was gonna say like a sexual body part. Like he, you know. I'm like, oh, this is gonna get crazy. And he's like, the lips. I was like, oh, okay.
I was like okay, never mind. Just
the
lips on her mouth. Yeah.
I was like, okay. Okay. So
I mean, that could be, yeah, for sure. But I guess it could be interpreted both ways. A kiss on the lips.
I died.
So funny. So yeah, I guess we find out that Veronica has like a kiss of death as her superpower. What did you think?
Kiss of death, which is like very like I feel like full circle with like the mafia world. It's kind of cool because it's like there's a kiss of death.
Yes.
I don't know. Honestly, like I know we were making fun of her becoming like spider powers. I don't
Spider-Woman,
hate it right now.
Yeah.
I don't hate it.
When I heard spider, I was like, first we were like, where's the connection? I thought that Cheryl was a spider, which is true.
Which she still is.
They always kind of like pulled that kind of angle like in terms of like who she was. So I forgot about the Black Widow of Wall Street. So when they made that connection again this episode, and I had to do a little like remembering, I was like, oh, okay, I guess that makes sense. To your point, I do love the fact that it has kind of a bit of a mafia tie, like the kiss of death. So I was okay with it by the end of it, but I think the question that I have, and you probably have it as well, is like, how did it get triggered? Was it just
I want to know
because?
that. I really want to know these these
Yeah,
things, because they do explain how Jughead and Betty and Archie got theirs from
yeah,
like this traumatic explosion or whatever. Cheryl's
right.
probably from like the whatever. I don't even know from
Well,
Cheryl's.
she had trauma from like her mom, like it being in her mind, I guess, maybe. Like maybe when she
Yeah.
was locked in
So
Abigail's
I
mind,
really
who
want to
knows?
know what Veronica's was like.
Yeah,
Um,
she's like, I'm living in trauma. She's like, I always have trauma.
but there has to be like an actual event where
For
like something
sure.
happened, and
Yeah.
like she kissed Reggie last week, so like it clearly wasn't she didn't have this power last week, because then she would
Right.
have killed him.
Right. Or maybe it was the breakup that really fucked her up. Like that was a traumatic
I'm not buying
experience.
that though. I'm not
I'm
buying
not
that.
buying it
Like
either.
her
Yeah.
dad's death could have been something, but again, like she
Totally.
kissed Reggie, but between that time, so like then he would have died too.
Exactly.
So if that is, I just want to know more about like what triggered this for her.
Maybe it was really bad sex. Maybe Geraldo was really bad in bed and she was like dead. Death to all of them.
I wonder
Traumatized.
if it has something to do with like her instincts, and like it's someone who she doesn't trust. Like inside, before she even knows that she can't trust you, like inside of her spidey senses like know that like she can't trust you. And maybe
Right.
we're gonna find out like maybe Geraldo was like a shady person
Was
like working in
shady.
the family, but he was shady,
Ooh.
and like her ability like knew that before she even knew that. Like
Right.
that would be sick.
That would be interesting. Like
Kind of like Betty's
kind of
like
similar to Betty.
red
Yeah,
aura
yeah.
thing, right?
Except like she can like literally kill them with her lips. So
Yeah, and
yeah,
I wonder
I'm
if like
interested.
no, it's gonna be cool. I think it's gonna be cool.
Yeah.
I just yeah, like is she gonna be able to control it? Like is she gonna be able to
Right.
like choose like who like she kills?
The next episode is
Um,
called Venomous, so I think it's gonna go
it's
like
gonna be
deeper
her. Yeah, yeah,
into her
yeah,
story.
yeah.
So we'll see what
And then
happens. But yeah,
ultimately like how it's gonna play into like the whole Percival war. Like
right.
what she's just gonna kiss everyone. Like
Yeah, she's just gonna make out with him and be like, okay, I'm killing everybody with my
yeah.
lips. I don't know. I like, yeah, because we wanted her to have a power that like could really do something, but like we were like, is she gonna turn into a wolf? Like, what's the deal?
And ultimately, like
So I don't know.
we did talk about this too a little bit last week. You know, Veronica, like iconically, like in the comic books too, like she is like a very seductive
Passion,
character, and
yeah,
like
yeah,
she
true,
has that charm.
for
So
sure.
for this to be a part of her power, it does make sense. Like I am okay. I know we had kind of like we were like, what the hell are they gonna do
Yeah,
with it? But I think it does kind of all sort of piece together, and it does fit her. It's just
I
why do
think
we
I
have
would.
two spiders in the show? Like I don't get that.
I don't know if you watch the Umbrella Academy. It's like another
Mm-mm. I watched
Netflix
like the
show.
first and I couldn't like get into it.
But like one of the girls' powers is like she has the power of persuasion as well. She's able
Mm.
to like tell people what to do. So, the idea that she has this power with like Black Widow being like seductive, I could see because we did say something along the lines of like maybe she has this power of like seduction.
Yeah.
So maybe she can get people to do what she wants. Like I don't know.
I
Like I'm
wouldn't
not.
be. I would be very. I'm gonna pull up Roberto's post about her because I just want to highlight. So he posted a thing like last night, I guess. He's like,
Yeah.
you're gonna find out like what's like. She's gonna start manifesting her gift,
Right.
and the emojis that he put.
Yeah.
Oh, he doesn't even have like a spider. He put rocket ship. Obviously, he always does that. Money bags,
Money bags.
lightning,
Lightning.
the stand time thing,
Santa.
tornado, light bulb, popcorn, like the theater, like the masked like theater like emojis, a house, an ambulance, and a death skull. Like it doesn't even make sense. So I went back because I wanted to see if he was gonna put like a spy. Now I'm like, now we've seen it. I'm like, okay, it doesn't really make sense though.
Right. Yeah.
Like it makes no sense.
Tornado.
So he put money. He put the money bag, and I was like, "Ooh, is that gonna like play into that whole persuasion thing? Like, does she
Right,
still
power
have that
persuasion.
gift, right?"
Yeah.
But like, I don't get. Oh, ambulance. Oh, maybe because of like the bite,
Like the death. Like
the
getting
death.
bit. I don't know.
Okay,
I
that
don't
kind of
know.
makes sense. Death.
Anyway, we'll
Yeah.
see. I want to know what everyone thinks about her newfound power and what we're supposed to expect from the next episode. But yeah, that was the episode, everyone. You ready to get into a recap?
Oh. Oh no, I had
Ororo.
questions and I
Oh yeah,
deleted
go.
it.
What was your question? What were you asking?
I deleted it. Damn. Okay, so my question I think was Oh, I think we talked about it. It was just the idea that like Veronica left Daddy's painting and Jughead took the book out. I was just gonna ask you, like, do you think there will be repercussions for those two actions? Like,
I think so, but a part of me is also like, why did they have to keep that door open? Because otherwise they wouldn't have. They would have just been like, yeah, burn it all. Like, I don't care.
And like, you know, Riverdale, like, we know it, guys. Like, they don't. Sometimes like they leave these things open just because like they wrote it like that, not because they actually meant for something.
Or they literally are like, no, we want to bring Hiram's like painting back at some point. Like he deserves to like have his moment still enshrined in the Riverdale world. So I don't know. We'll see. But you're right. They probably just didn't think about it. They just didn't want to get rid of the painting.
Okay.
Let's get into our recap roundups.
Recap roundups.
Best moment. My best moment is gonna go to, I think, the core five working together with all the supernatural stuff. I know sometimes we hate on it because it's Riverdale and like how did it get to this point, but I really don't mind it. And I love how like Cheryl like knows all these things and she's like telling them like the tea. Yeah, I think that was my best moment. Just seeing them all come together and like finally working together and like sharing information. But to your point, like you're missing Reggie, you're missing Kevin. Like you're not telling everyone everything.
You didn't tell
it's
everybody.
Just like you're picking and choosing.
Yeah, which didn't make any sense because like they've had to set aside their differences before. I can't imagine why Veronica wouldn't just be like, Reggie, you should come to this because we're talking about this cycle who's trying to take over the town. Like,
or even Archie, like that's his boy. Like, why don't you just like have a boys' night and then like you like all start talking about like what's happening? Like, there's no communication.
And then Kevin, they didn't even try. They didn't even try. So
because they know it's not gonna work with Kevin, they're like, no, just let him go do his thing. We'll see him later.
It's fine. barely save him. Maybe he'll die. We'll see.
Oh my god, we have to start this trend. But everyone on Twitter kept saying like, Veronica, please kiss Fangs next. Veronica, please kiss. Like they're saying like who they want dead, and I'm like, can you please kiss Kevin?
Can you please kiss Kevin for 1 second, please? Thank you. My best moment is gonna go to Archie and Betty because I was going through the episode and I was like, we did get that at the very top of the episode, but I feel like it was a very sweet moment to see them talking about the baby and wanting to be together. And I know that like now we're gonna have to deal with like Betty's trauma again and deal with like her darkness, but I was still really excited in that moment to like see them, even though it didn't turn out to be pregnancy.
Same. And I do feel like their chemistry is like off the charts. Just the way they interact with each other and the conversations they have about life and
just feels very
their
natural
future
and
like
nice.
They're so caring and like I love when she like grabs him and like kisses him and like their chemistry is just something that I never really saw with like the VARCHIE side of it. It was just a lot of like the sexual parts of that.
For sure.
There is a very big difference between those two ships. Whatever side you want to take, like it's a very distinct difference.
Different. Absolutely.
And to your point, like even though it wasn't like a positive test, I still appreciated that scene and like how happy he was.
Yeah.
You know, and ultimately like he always fights for like the good of the world, the good of the town, and he's like, it will bring some light to this world. It was so cute. He's just so cute.
So cute. So cute.
WTF moment.
WTF moment was her not being pregnant because I really thought she was gonna be pregnant. Like I was like, and like Jughead's voiceover kind of said it first, and then she was like, meh, and I was like, oh my, I don't know. I was just like kind of shocked.
Yeah.
And then also Percival kissing Kevin. I did not see that coming. I was like very shocked.
I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
My WTF moment was when Veronica and Jughead decided to keep their shit. I know that's like a kind of a small moment, but I was also just like, why? Like, what the F is wrong with you considering what's been happening? I don't understand why you would have done it.
Yeah.
Maybe for Jughead, but like Veronica, like, it made
just
no
take
sense.
the painting back, girl.
Just
like,
take the fucking painting
and the way she said it, she's like, I don't need no man. I don't need my daddy now, and I don't need my never, and I don't need you either. I was like, he was like, okay. He's like, I wasn't questioning it.
That to you. Exactly.
It was funny.
Like, nobody has no power over me.
I'm nobody has power over me.
Sure.
She's so funny. There is a hint in the next couple episodes that I don't know if it's next week, that Jughead and Veronica are gonna get like a moment, like an episode together. Not, I don't mean like, I don't think romantically. I just mean like they're gonna work together on something. Up. So I'm wondering if this has a connection to what they just did with their items. Like if it's maybe something to do with that. I don't know.
That would make sense. That would make sense to me for sure.
Yeah.
MVP.
MVP is gonna have to go to our big black widow of Wall Street because because we were worried about her. Yeah. And I do think that like ultimately I'm okay with this like whole Black Widow thing. It's fine. Like I'll take it, whatever. I am excited to see like how it plays out. How can she use this power to defeat Percival?
For sure.
I'm excited for it. And I do think like she served some good lines this episode too. So
yeah. My MVP is gonna go to Cheryl because I think that she like slayed the episode. I think that if she didn't have the powers that she didn't have the knowledge that she did about magic, they wouldn't even have gotten this far to begin with. So I think that I do personally think that she even needs to like turn the volume up a little bit more so we can like get to the point, because she literally has the power to boil him to death. Yeah. I'm surprised that she hasn't like turned around and been like, I'm gonna kill you right now.
Yeah, like slow and steady though. Maybe there's a reason for that, and maybe they'll get to it. Like,
for sure. I mean, it's just not a show without that.
And like, when's Sabrina gonna come?
Yeah, for sure. I'm really excited to see how she's gonna fit into this now that the powers are starting to manifest. Like, we'll see.
Yeah. LVP, I'm gonna give it to Reggie. I didn't want to choose Kevin again, but I'm gonna give it to Reggie because I really did love how his storyline like opened at the top of the episode.
Yeah,
and it was like because of his dyslexia, and I was like, oh my god, that's so cute, and like he kept the book, right? And I was so excited. And then at the end, like he switches and he's like, Percival, like I want to be like a wizard too. I was like, this doesn't even go with his storyline. Like he's never been that kind of character. So like it was kind of surprising, kind of shocking. And I was just like, what the F, Reggie? Like,
and him wanting to be a wizard just like suddenly makes him an ally. I'm just like, okay, cool. Thanks, Reggie. My LVP is going to go to Kevin as per usual. And I don't think I need to speak more on that. I just think that he's a terrible character and I just want him to die at this point. So thank you.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Thank you.
The best line. My best line is from Reggie, and he's talking to Veronica, and he goes, first it was Archie, then it was me, then it was Archie, then it was Chad, then it was Archie, and then you came back to me without a break. He's like, you can't be alone, it's not in your nature. I thought it was such a sting. Like it was such her face was like she didn't even know what to say. And a part of me does think this fucking conversation happened between these two in real life. I'm telling you. I
mean, I think that reading it back, it definitely leads into like, it leans more into like the Black Widow storyline.
Oh, totally. Of course. I'm not saying they wrote it because of that. No, of course. But like, when you look at like how she is, like we don't really know. We don't know, obviously, but like, it was like a real stinger of a line. And I was like,
a spider bite, perhaps?
It was a spider stinger, I'm telling you. Maybe that was a traumatic event.
There was a spider involved.
Oh, you got me good.
Yeah. Mine is gonna be from the top of the episode with Archie and Betty when Archie says, I know that timing is completely wrong, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little excited thinking about the idea of starting a new life with you. Everything has been so dark, a baby would be the light. And I was like,
I just got goosebumps.
And I love their story because
so
like she was always like the light in his darkness. Like that whole like story of her being the light. It's just like him talking about their baby together.
Dude, they've come so far. Like they really have. As like a ship who like just started like effing. Like they have come so far.
For sure. I know. I'm so excited for them. And then Betty obviously says at the end of that, it'll happen someday. And I'm like, end of the season.
Someday, season finale.
Yeah, exactly. Let's get to our listener rounders.
Yes, listener rounders. We have at CHONI 5 on it says her best moment is a Jughead and Cheryl's dynamic. We don't see them together as much, but it was nice. I like their weird friendship. Worst moment, I guess, Kevin and Percival. Is that the worst moment? Yeah. It is because she doesn't touch each other. Kevin and Percival, he's kissing Kevin, who is under his mind control, ? Crazy how the episode was dealing with Archie's trauma in regards to being groomed and abused by a predator, and then they do that ? Yeah, that I remember. I thought that was interesting.
I agree with that for sure.
Really strange choice from the writers. Best line, Cheryl calling Jughead a nerd. WTF. So Heather is coming back. She's been filming with Madeline, and I guess CHONI isn't coming back this season ? For goodness sake, every single other ship gets to interact, hang out, kiss, talk, etc. But we don't even get them in the same scenes anymore ? For F's sakes. Also, this episode was boring AF. And guess who wasn't in the episode? Tony and Tabby.
Boom. I mean, she's not wrong about the fact that Tony and Tabitha bring a little bit of extra
They do,
life
but
to
I
the
do
episode.
feel like we needed a breather. We didn't need to see them this episode. It was very heavy on the others, which was fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there is the actress for who's playing Heather. I forgot her name. Caroline, I think. So. I posted it last week on our recap rewind Instagram. So always stay tuned to our IG because like we are like posting like different news articles that come up. But there is an actual actress like who is casted, who is filming with Cheryl. So there is going to be a real Heather in all of this.
Okay, so finally she's coming back. That's
she's coming back.
That's
She's
what
a
I
real
wanted last
person.
episode. So here we go. Like she's here.
So yeah, we don't know if Shoni's ever going to make a scene, an appearance this season. And to your point, it's true. Like I'm seeing a lot of talk. Like they don't even have interactions. Like they are keeping them at polar ends of this show.
Because I feel like that like when they get pulled back together, it's gonna be like so explosive. Everyone's gonna be so excited. So I think just hold on a little bit longer. Shoni 5 on it. I know it's in your name, Shoni. Like you love her, or you love him, but I'm sure it'll come back soon for sure. At Sieran says best moment core 5 interacting. I love their dynamic. I miss them together. WTF moment Kevin and Percival low key here for it because drama, but also should have seen it coming. MVP Veronica, she's finally doing something, and oh my god, the spider powers. I live. LVP, the writers for not including Tabitha and Tony. I missed them this week. And best line, Veronica, Betty's bestie, Dr. Curdle.
I love that. I died. She's like, oh yeah, you're Betty's bestie.
Yeah, you're the bestie. Can I ask the question of, do you think that now that everybody's manifesting powers and we finally got Veronica, do you think Tony's gonna get a power? Do you think that Reggie's gonna get a power? Do you think Kevin's gonna get a power? Like, is everyone gonna get a freaking power at this point? Like,
I mean, I thought they were. Yeah, I thought they were.
Right. So you think that eventually everyone at some point is gonna get something?
I wonder if now that Kevin and Reggie have gone to the dark side, they don't get a power.
They don't get
because
one.
like you're on his side.
Because it's a gift. Like they're always calling it a gift.
And
like
what does he call them? The agitators.
He said allies at the top. But
no,
maybe,
like about like the other core 5. He calls them the agitators, I think.
Like defactors or something
like that. Yeah. So I feel like like you won't get a power if you're on his side.
If you're on his side, right?
That's my opinion.
That makes sense. Yeah.
We have one more from at MTV Horror who has the best name
ever.
She says, well, I don't know if it's actually a she, but best moment, Barchie talking about starting a family after they defeat the bad guys. WTF moment, Percival kissing Kevin, question mark. I don't know if that was necessary, but it was def creepy. MVP, Cheryl for schooling their asses in witchcraft. LVP, Geraldo, RIP. I was hoping to see more of him later on. Best line, what Reggie said to Veronica about how she's afraid to be alone. So glad he called her out on that. I feel like this person had my roundups basically.
Yeah.
That's spot on. Thank you guys.
Thank you for all of your roundups every week. We always appreciate it. We always love to hear what everyone has to say about the episode. Let's take some time to thank our patrons of the episode. Our Rewinder squad, we have White, Nicole, and Cliff. Our Lit Rewinders, Tina, Ann, Soleil, and Kate. And our Mommy Rewinders, Becca, Sarah, Tamla, and Grace.
Thank you guys. If you'd like to join our Patreon family, check us out at patreon.com/recap_rewind.
And also make sure you guys are checking us out on all of our socials, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. And you can also find us on Google Podcasts, Spotify, and iTunes, anywhere that you get podcasts. Like, subscribe, follow, review, and comment to stay engaged with us at Recap Rewind. Tell all your friends about us. Thank you so much for listening.
Bye.